James Parker had built his empire one careful decision at a time. At 52, he was the kind of man who measured success in quarterly reports and handshakes that meant something. His dark suit was always pressed. His silver-threaded hair was always neat. People in boardrooms respected him. Some even feared him a little. But tonight, driving home through the rain, James felt every one of his years weighing on him. The windshield wipers beat a steady rhythm against the downpour. It was the kind of November rain that seeps into your bones, the kind that makes you grateful for a warm home. James was thinking about his daughter, Emily, who lived 3 states away now. She'd called last week, but he'd been in a meeting. He meant to call back. He always meant to. That's when he saw her. Through the rain-blurred glass, illuminated by a streetlight that flickered like a tired heartbeat, a young woman sat on a park bench. She was maybe 30, with light brown hair plastered to her face. She wore a thin jacket that had seen better days. In her arms, wrapped in what looked like a red blanket, was a baby. James drove past. Then something made him slow down. Something made him pull over. He sat there for a moment, hands on the steering wheel, listening to the rain drum on the roof of his Mercedes. It's not your problem, he told himself. There are shelters. There are services. But he thought of Emily again. He thought of his ex-wife, Margaret, who used to say he'd forgotten how to see people. Just people. Not clients or employees or obstacles. Just people. James grabbed the umbrella from the back seat and stepped into the rain. Sarah Mitchell looked up when the shadow fell across her. She'd been singing softly to baby Rose, trying to keep her calm, trying to pretend they weren't sitting in a storm with nowhere to go. Rose was 8 months old, with wispy blonde hair and eyes that trusted Sarah completely. That trust was the heaviest thing Sarah carried. The man standing before her was tall, maybe in his early 50s, with kind eyes that didn't match his expensive suit. He held an umbrella over both of them, rain soaking his shoulders. "I'm sorry to intrude," he said gently. His voice was deep, steady. "But you and your baby, you can't stay out here." Sarah's first instinct was to say she was fine. Pride has its own kind of warmth. But Rose whimpered against her chest, and Sarah felt the dampness seeping through the blanket. She started, then stopped. What was the point of lying? We don't have anywhere to go. Just tonight. Tomorrow I'll figure something out. James noticed the way she held the baby. Careful, protective, like she was guarding a flame in a windstorm. He noticed the dark circles under her eyes. The kind you get from making impossible choices. "There's a diner 2 blocks from here," he said. "It's warm. They make good soup. Would you let me buy you dinner? No strings, just, it's too cold for the little one." Sarah studied his face. "You learn to read people when you've got nothing left." She saw no danger there. Only something that looked like loneliness dressed up in a nice suit. "Okay," she whispered. "Thank you." The diner was called Rosie's, a coincidence that made Sarah smile for the first time in days. It was the kind of place with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that never got cold because they kept refilling your cup. The waitress, a woman in her 60s with reading glasses on a chain, brought them menus and cooed at baby Rose. "What a little angel," she said. "How old?" 8 months, Sarah replied, adjusting the blanket that was finally starting to dry. James ordered the soup special and a roast beef sandwich. Sarah asked for the same, her voice barely above a whisper, like she wasn't sure she deserved to order anything at all. They sat in silence for a while. The kind of silence that isn't uncomfortable, just empty of words that needed saying yet. "I'm James," he finally offered. "Sarah. And this is Rose." "Beautiful name?" "It was my grandmother's." Sarah looked down at her daughter. "She used to say that even when winter comes, roses remember how to bloom. You just have to be patient." James felt something shift in his chest. "Your grandmother sounds like she was wise." She was. Sarah's eyes glistened. "She passed 2 years ago. Left me her house. It wasn't much, but it was ours. Rose and me." The soup arrived, steam rising like prayers. Sarah ate slowly, making it last, feeding small spoonfuls of broth to Rose, who gummed them happily. "What happened to the house?" James asked gently. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Then, As if the warmth of the diner had thawed something frozen inside her, she began to talk. Her husband had left when she was 6 months pregnant. Just left. She'd lost her job at the pharmacy when the company downsized. Then the medical bills came. Rose had been born premature. Spent 3 weeks in the NICU. Sarah had paid what she could, borrowed what she couldn't. The house was mortgaged to people who didn't care about grandmothers or roses or winter or bloom. Last week, they'd changed the locks. "I thought I could handle it," Sarah said, her voice steady even as tears rolled down her cheeks. "I thought I was strong enough." But it's different when you have someone depending on you. When it's not just your life, you know? James knew. He thought of all the years he'd spent building his company, missing Emily's soccer games, arriving home after bedtime. Successful by every measure except the ones that mattered. "You're stronger than you think," he said. "Being here, keeping her safe, singing to her in the rain, that takes a kind of strength most people never find. It doesn't feel strong. It feels like failing. Failure is giving up," James said. "You're still fighting. That's not failure. That's love." They talked for 2 hours. The waitress refilled their coffee and didn't mention the time. James learned that Sarah had studied nursing, but couldn't finish her degree when her mother got sick. That she played guitar. That she made Rose laugh by making silly faces. That she was 29 and felt 100 years old. Sarah learned that James had a daughter he missed. That he'd built a pharmaceutical distribution company from nothing. That his wife had left him 10 years ago because he was married to his work. That he was 52 and only just learning what mattered. When Rose fell asleep against Sarah's shoulder, James made a decision. "I have a rental property," he said. "A small house on Maple Street. The tenant moved out last month. It's furnished. It needs someone to look after it while I find the right buyer." Sarah looked up sharply. "I can't afford—" "I'm not asking you to pay rent," James said. "I'm asking you to keep the pipes from freezing and make sure the place doesn't sit empty. That's worth something to me. You'd be doing me a favor." "I don't want charity." "It's not charity. It's practical." He pulled out a business card, wrote an address on the back. "Give me a week to get it ready. Until then, there's an extended stay hotel near my office. I'll cover it. Consider it an advance on the caretaking job." Sarah stared at the card, then at James. "Why are you doing this?" James thought about Emily, about Margaret, about all the times he could have stopped, could have noticed, could have cared. "Because someone should have done it for me once," he said quietly. "Because I have the means to help, and you need help, and that's reason enough. Because that little girl deserves to wake up warm and safe. Because you deserve a chance to catch your breath." He paused, then added, "And because it's the right thing to do. That's all. Just the right thing." 3 months later, on a February afternoon when the sun finally remembered how to shine, James received a package at his office. Inside was a photograph of Sarah and Rose in front of the Maple Street house. Sarah was smiling, really smiling, and Rose was pointing at something beyond the camera's frame. Behind them in the garden, the first crocuses were pushing through the frost. There was a note. "Dear James, I got a job at Mercy Hospital. Night shift in the ER. Mrs. Chen from next door watches Rose while I work. I'm saving money for school. Rose took her first steps last week. I'm enclosing the first month's rent. You said I didn't have to pay, but I want to. Because you taught me something important. Accepting help isn't weakness, but neither is standing on your own when you can. Thank you for seeing us that night. Thank you for the umbrella. With gratitude, Sarah and Rose." James pinned the photograph to his office wall, right where he could see it from his desk. That evening, he called Emily. They talked for an hour. Years pass differently when you're paying attention. James sold his company when he turned 58. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to. He started a foundation that helped single parents with emergency housing. Sarah served on the board. Emily moved back to town with her family. James taught his grandson how to fish. Sarah finished her nursing degree. She met a kind man named Thomas at the hospital, a physical therapist with a gentle laugh. They married in the garden behind the Maple Street house, which James had deeded to Sarah on her 30th birthday. "A house should belong to someone who understands what it means to have one," he'd said. Rose grew up healthy and happy. She played guitar like her mother. She called James Uncle James and drew him pictures that he kept in a special drawer. On rainy November evenings, James sometimes drove past that park bench. He'd park for a moment remembering that we're all just a few bad months away from needing help, remembering that kindness isn't complicated, it's just noticing, and then doing something about what you've noticed. He'd remember a young woman singing to her baby in the rain, holding on to hope when hope was all she had left, and he'd remember that the most important decisions we make aren't in boardrooms or signed in ink. They're the small moments when we choose to stop, to see, to care. The moments when we remember that success isn't what you build for yourself. It's what you build for others. It's the umbrella you share in the rain.